Welcome. This is the first video I'm doing on pens and ink, so be kind. I don't know what I'm doing, and if I learn something, I might even be able to insert a couple of pictures. But for now, I'm just going to do the best I can. I'm excited. I've come back from my first ever pen show. I went to the Detroit Pen Show. Dale and his crew put on from what I could tell, a really nice, smaller pen show, not overwhelming. Everyone was so nice and willing to take questions, and so I wanted to go over the things I was able to purchase and a little bit of my game plan. So I had watched about every YouTube video I could find about going to your first pen show or going to a pen show. And the first thing I did is set a budget. I set a pretty high budget, but something I intended to stick to. I knew the bigger purchase I was going to make before I even got there. So I did set aside cash. I put it in 4 separate envelopes, the one I knew I was going to spend and where I was going to spend it. And then I came back with a quarter of what I had budgeted for the show. So I was pretty proud of that and very happy with all my purchases. So here we go. The first thing I did is make a beeline for Pen Realm. Kurt Spear, I had an appointment with him in the afternoon on the first day of the pen show, which was a Friday, to get a custom grind. So it was my very first experience with visiting a Nibmeister. Kurt couldn't have been nicer. His team couldn't have been nicer. And I knew I wanted to buy this Esterbrook Kingfisher. So I went there first because I wanted to be able to pick the swirl. And Josiah was very nice, was able to help me look at all the pens, and actually he even swapped out nibs for me. So this is the pen I chose. I got it with a broad nib, knowing that I was going to have some kind of grind. It does have the little symbol for bird on the nib. And then I was able to take this to Kurt in the afternoon, and he ground it into a cursive smooth italic. So I got to tell you, the appointment with Kurt was wonderful. He saw how I was writing, and then he picked out a few pens of his for me to try the custom grinds. He said, I want you to write with these 5 or 6. And then, well, he tuned a couple of my pens up for me. I chose which ones I liked. So the cursive smooth italics was my first choice. The 60% architect was my second choice. So I was able to buy from him this Russ Pens. I told him I wanted a maker pen. So this is a Russ Pens design, and I had him put on one of his special nibs he did for the show. Okay, it focuses for everybody else when they do this, but it is a Detroit Pen Show 2025 nib that he then put the 60% architect grind on for me. So that was the second pen I purchased, but not in that particular order. But just to be consistent, this is the other thing I bought from Pen Realm. I loved the blotter papers. These aren't very expensive, but I just thought the designs were so pretty. And I actually use them, so I don't just have them as art. I use them besides. So I did that. And then he suggested an ink. He's always said that this particular type of sailor ink that I am not even going to try to pronounce is a thing to put in a pen if you wonder if something's wrong with your pen or something, the ink combo isn't right. And so I bought that from him. And then I also bought the Kingfisher ink that goes along with my pen. I was one of the weekend pass holders, so I was able to get a bottle of this ink with my weekend pass, but I had also ordered a bottle, so I'll be swatching that later, but I think I'm going to give some of those away as samples. So one of the other stops in the morning, I stopped by Keith McCleary. He has a company, Random Things. He does 3D printing for fountain pen accessories, I guess you would say, and he was selling some of his previously loved pens, and so I got this Edison Collier pen. It's the pearl blue-green. It's got an extra fine nib. He wanted to rehome it, And so I let him. So I just thought the pattern was really pretty. I liked the pen. It had some ink in it, so I was able to use it. And so that was my other pen purchase. And then I stopped by Fountain Pendulum. I had purchased something from them a long time ago. Galen and her husband run the business. Galen is a wood crafter. I got this great pen tray, and these fit samples, and it is magnetic, but I use them apart as often as I use it together. So I stopped by her booth because she was doing a seminar in the afternoon. Oh, and just a nice touch. It's got really nice felt on the bottom. She did a seminar the next day on dip pen exploration. So I had been looking at either the Colorverse or the Kakimori dip pens. And so I ended up getting both of the Colorverse. This is the aluminum one. And then I was able to get this River City Pen Company nib holder from her as well. Because I've been, tell you what, I've been looking at everybody's online, but I thought this was a pretty swirl pattern. And then for the brass one, I just went ahead and got the really inexpensive holder from her because both of them write differently and lay down ink differently. So that was nice. This was just the little ink we got with our seminar. And then for, I think, $8 or $9, I got this glass. I think it's a muddler and a spoon, but that's simply for ink swatching. One really fun thing I found there, I always look for things I can't get other places, and Sven's Ink Solutions. There's a young man there. He was there with his mom, and it must have appealed to me because his mom was about my age and the son was about the age of my sons, but he mixes his own inks, and he was doing custom ink mixing right there, which I did not do. But he also had a dip pen and things that you could swatch your own ink. So I brought my own notebook, but I was able to swatch all his inks, and I thought it was wonderful restraint that I didn't get them all. He really likes Norwegian things, so a lot of his inks are named, but I don't know if you can tell, but they've got some really nice sheening on the top four. These are his inks with shimmer, and then these were his inks that didn't have shimmer. And then, like I said, he was doing custom appointments all weekend long for that. So 6 of these came home with me. And then Federalist Pens and Papers were there. They have a very nice crew that works there. So some of the not as exciting things I got, I did get some paper. My sister writes letters, and so I thought I'd get her some paper. She has a fountain pen from her youth, and she goes, "Oh, it writes horrible." I'm thinking it's the paper. And then I just got the Rhodia notebook just for fun. And then, excuse me, the other thing, they were so kind at the Federalist Pens and Paper booth. I must have gone by all weekend looking at all their pens, and they were very generous letting you look at the pens and pick them up and see what you liked. So I did get some inks that you can only get there. I guess they were the first company to sell Robert Oster inks, I guess. But Frank is the name of one of the people. I think he owns Federalist Pens and Paper. But so they have some custom inks. This is Frankly X. I will swatch these later and hopefully share them either here or on my Instagram. This is the 10-year anniversary ink. I got the Frankly Green because I was in a very spooky Halloween mood, and the Frankly Walnut, which just looked really nice. And then I was able to pick up 3 of the smaller bottles of the Andryllium ink just because I was curious. And then I got this pen that I don't know what we're supposed to call it, Norwal, Novelar, but it is a, not a piston. It is a pen where you pull this out. The name has escaped me. Where do the words go? And I just thought it was cool. It wasn't that expensive. I think it was around $55. I got this in a medium nib. It's a vacuum filler. Thank you. Notes are a good thing. So I had a very good time at the pen show. If I can quickly look at one other thing I got from Pen Realm. I did get one of their cute rickshaw bags. I seem to have an addiction to rickshaw bags, so I was able to get this one. And then this is one of the pens that he smoothed and tuned for me. If you ever have a pen that you really want to love and you're not loving it because it's not writing well, I think it's a money well spent to go have somebody smooth and tune it and go for there. So I had planned to make this purchase. This was going to be my big purchase. I knew it right off the bat. Was everything else an impulse? Of course it was, because there was nothing else I absolutely needed. I did, for a long time, I was curious about getting the brass or the aluminum and the brass dip pens, so that was not really an impulse. Everything else was just for fun. Half of why it was such a good experience was the people that were there. I was able to attend a pizza party on Friday night, sat with a bunch of stationery pen enthusiasts. Galen and her husband sat with us. She's a woman who's behind Fountain Pendulum, and it was just a wonderful experience. So thanks to everybody who helped me make my first pen show wonderful, and I just wanted to share my haul.